Hey guys, Owen Reigler here with Midwest Whitetail. I want to take a second to talk about hunting arrows today and my setup. I mean, there's a lot of variables to talk about, so we can get into some of those today. I'm shooting a micro diameter arrow for, increased penetration. If you're shooting through, if you hit back or something that's soft tissue, maybe it doesn't make a big difference, but I like it if you have to shoot through bone or anything like that. It may be the difference between retrieving your game and not shooting the smaller diameter arrow. I mean, there's a lot of differences if you're just shooting target. I shoot a bigger diameter arrow and it's a lot lighter. So now I haven't jumped on the bandwagon of going just totally crazy on this FOC stuff and a 700 grain arrow. This is about I just weighed this, it's about 490 grains, so just about 500 is what I'm shooting here with around 15% FOC, which is a great happy medium as far as I'm concerned. Like, I don't want to go super heavy and I don't want to be super light where it's fast. I like that happy medium. It's so important sometimes if a deer takes, say you range him, he takes 2 or 3 steps, and so now you're off a yard or two. That's where that speed is so important. That flatter trajectory I think is super important. Now, if you're just taking 15 and 20 yard shots, you could probably shoot that 700 grain arrow and do great with it, punch through the shoulder and everything else. But, I guess what shots are you going to limit yourself to? Because I'm good with a 30, 35, or even a 40 yard shot in the right circumstances, right? I mean, obviously you got to read the body language and all that, make sure it's a calm animal and all that kind of stuff. But I still like that happy medium. I went to the speed craze there for a while. I was shooting the lightest arrow I could find, and that was back when rangefinders were just coming along, so a lot of times you were just guesstimating yardage, and so if you were off 3 or 4 yards, that was a big deal to have a faster arrow like that, and you're still making a good shot. So I think you take that into account. What's your shot distance going to be, your FOC. Like I said, if you're in that 14 to 18% range, I think that's great. You're going to get good penetration with it, and right around that 500 grains to 550, somewhere in there is plenty heavy for whitetails. And now if you're going to go hunt, Africa, or if you're going to go after Cape Buffalo or whatever, then you can consider a different arrow, maybe a different broadhead. But for what I'm doing, whitetails, I think this is a perfect setup. This is an Orion micro diameter, like I said, 500 grains, so it's right in the wheelhouse. If you watch, I had a decoy hunt this last fall. First shot zips right through him, just like you want it to. Second shot, he's standing out there a ways and still hits the mark, but it hits that off shoulder. It doesn't punch through that off shoulder, and it really would take a heck of a heavy arrow to do that in that case. And even then, probably is not going to go through on the far shoulder. But anyway, some things to think about. What you want to shoot. If you got any questions, you can always reach out to us and be more than happy to help you out or give you some ideas. Another thing to think about is what broadhead do you want to shoot on this. Now, the faster speed-wise, I'm more inclined to go to a mechanical head. I'm shooting the Slick Trick here, and I'm shooting these about, I think I'm around 260, 257 to 260, right in there. So as you get faster and faster, I'm more inclined to go to an expandable, just so it flies like a dart. You're more prone to get the wind planing with a fixed blade head, as you shoot faster and faster like that. But, some guys that hunt off the ground a lot, where you may have to shoot through some grass and stuff, they really like that fixed blade head so it doesn't catch grass and open up and that kind of thing. So those are all great points to think about as well. One other thing we can talk about too is your fletching choice. I mean, if you're trying to stabilize a fixed blade versus a mechanical, you want a little more surface area on a fixed blade to help that steer that broadhead. And I like the 4-fletch now. These have become popular here in recent years. The thing I really like about them is if you're trying to knock tune or knock index your arrows, it gives you one more rotation. You got 4 different spots you can rotate that arrow to get the perfect flight that you're looking for. So that's why I like 4-fletch versus 3-fletch. So that's what I like to run on my arrow setup. Like I said, maybe 15% FOC right in there. 4-fletch seems to work great for me on whitetails. When you think about it, how often does a deer get away that you actually hit with good placement versus shooting high, shooting low? So that's why I still like a little faster arrow versus super heavy. And so hopefully some of these tips will help you guys out. Good luck out there.